If you were to ask what's in my bag at any given point in time, one of the answers that I'll give is my sketchbook. So today I'll be talking about the sketchbook, how it represents artist culture and why it's important to artists, and then how it is important to me personally and how it's impacted my life. So this is the sketchbook. It is a collection of pages. This one has 60 pages. It's got a cover and a backing, and then also a binding here. And these elements are important because the cover and the backing keep the pages inside safe and free from the elements, and then the binding keeps all of the pages together. Now, a sketchbook doesn't need to be exactly like this. It can be any sort of collection of materials that you draw on or paint on or do your art on, and keep together. So a collection of sticky notes can be considered a sketchbook. A collection of loose leaf pages that you might keep in a folder could be considered a sketchbook. But this is the traditional one, and there are other types of sketchbooks as well. This one specifically is mixed media, so it's maybe a medium weight. There are heavier weighted papers if you want to paint in your sketchbook, and lighter weight papers if you're just drawing with a pencil. And a sketchbook really is a free-form sort of art in and of itself, because you can use any sort of mediums on it. You can use the pages in any way that you'd like. You can rip them out, you can cut them up, you can glue things to different pages in the sketchbook, and it's a way for one to experiment artistically, as well as observe and document the world around them, or even creatively release thoughts, emotions, etc. So that is the sketchbook, and you can get them really anywhere. You can make them, you can buy them at a craft store, you can staple papers together, and you have your sketchbook. And it's important to artists specifically because it represents the artistic documentation and outlet of artists. So if you were to go to a cafe, or if I were to go to a cafe and I'm observing the world around me and I think that the coffee that I'm getting looks really pretty and I would like to document it and sketch it, I have my sketchbook with me that I can pull out and draw the coffee and remember that moment to look back on later. And also, if I were at that same cafe and another artist were to watch me sketch in my sketchbook, maybe they'll come over and make conversation, maybe we'll sketch together, exchange social medias, and that sort of thing. And that is that's an example of how artists use the sketchbook to create community and to create a culture of connection through art. And for me personally, I grew up doing art, so when I was little, I did not like the sketchbook at all. It was an assignment, it was something that I was forced to do, I didn't really understand it, and it took many years for me to really see, after I'd finished a couple of them and looked back on my old sketchbooks, to see how I viewed the world in the past and how my past self used the sketchbook in a different way than me now might use that same sketchbook. And it's really a way for me personally to document the world. I love looking at the world around me, landscapes, people, objects, and drawing them in my sketchbook and figuring out maybe how I would describe them in my own fantasy world and that sort of thing. And it's also a way for me to get creative. I feel like in a lot of my personal academic life, there's there's not a lot of room for me to make art with no rules attached to them, so the sketchbook is one way to do that. And it's also really informal, and if I mess up in a sketchbook, I'm not ruining a big canvas or things like that. So once again, this is the sketchbook. This is mine personally, but as I said, sketchbooks have a lot of different looks, and then it's important to artist culture because of how people connect to each other through the sketchbook, through seeing each other's sketchbooks, and why it's important to me personally. So thank you for listening, and